The world is watching a quiet revolution. Not in New York, Tokyo, or Beijing, but in a place the world once overlooked. On the shores of Manila Bay, steel giants rise, not just for planes, but for people's dreams. Because this isn't just about concrete and cranes, it's about giving millions of Filipinos something they've waited generations for. Proof that their nation can lead Asia's future. And if you've ever doubted what your country could build, what you could build, this story will change that forever. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. The world is watching a quiet transformation, one that isn't happening in New York, Beijing, or Tokyo, but in a place the world once underestimated, the Philippines. For years, people associated it with traffic jams, floods, and corruption. But now, something massive is taking shape on the shores of Manila Bay, something that could shift Asia's balance of power, trade, and technology. In Bulacan province, cranes stand like metal giants over reclaimed land. The air hums with the sound of progress, machines, steel, sweat, and ambition. This isn't just another infrastructure project. It's the new Manila International Airport, part of a $10 billion zero-cents vision that could transform the Philippines into Asia's next great gateway. But here's what makes this story different. It's not just about an airport. It's about redemption, about a country rewriting its reputation. For decades, travelers landing in Manila were greeted with delays, chaos, and congestion. But then came a dream, one so bold it seemed impossible. Build a world-class airport that could rival Singapore, Dubai, even Tokyo. San Miguel Corporation, one of the nation's oldest conglomerates, took the risk. They saw what others didn't. The Philippines wasn't lacking talent or vision, only belief. And so they began. This new airport will have 4 massive runways, capable of handling 100 million passengers every year. Surrounding it will be a vast aerotropolis, a futuristic city built around aviation, trade, and technology. Factories, hotels, research hubs, and logistic zones will orbit the runways, all designed to breathe new life into the economy. But then the doubts came. Critics called it impossible. They said the land was too unstable, the budget too ambitious, the leadership too uncertain. Others warned it would destroy coastal ecosystems. And yet, through every delay, every storm, every bureaucratic roadblock, the Philippines kept building. Because this time, failure wasn't an option. While other nations slowed down during the pandemic, the Philippines did the opposite. It planned smarter. It refined blueprints, secured materials, digitized supply chains, and kept the engines of progress running quietly beneath the noise of global chaos. And now, as the skeleton of this project rises, it represents something far more powerful than steel and concrete. It represents belief. The belief that the Philippines can compete on a global stage. The belief that Asia's future doesn't just belong to giants like China or Japan, but to nations bold enough to take their shot. When finished, this mega project will decongest Metro Manila, attract billions in trade, and open corridors across Southeast Asia. It's expected to create over 1 million jobs and contribute up to 9% of the nation's GDP. That's not just infrastructure, that's a nation declaring we can. Because the Philippines has always been rich not in gold but in grit, and this project proves it. Still, every great transformation begins with a challenge. And in the shadows of those cranes and blueprints lies a question that will define the next chapter. Not what the Philippines is building, but what it's becoming. The winds are changing, the world's eyes are turning, and the quiet hum of progress in Bulacan is about to become a roar no one can ignore. If you believe the Philippines is finally stepping into its moment, type takeoff in the comments. Because what's coming next isn't just construction. It's a power shift the world didn't see coming. If you look at a map, the Philippines doesn't seem like the center of anything. It's a scatter of islands floating between Asia's giants. But that's the illusion. Geography, when combined with vision, becomes power. And right now, that power is being built in plain sight. The new Manila International Airport isn't just a project, it's a pivot point, a $10 billion zero-cents answer to decades of missed opportunities. For years, the Philippines sat on one of the most strategic crossroads in global trade, yet never fully took advantage of it. Goods from Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and even Australia already passed its waters. But without world-class infrastructure, the country remained a pit stop instead of a player. But then something changed. For the first time in modern history, the Philippines decided not to wait for foreign powers to tell it what it could become. It decided for itself. San Miguel Corporation's vision wasn't just to build another airport. It was to create an aerotropolis, a city built around aviation and logistics. Picture it: cargo planes landing by the minute, tech hubs glowing with nighttime energy, highways branching out like arteries feeding a beating economic heart. Every flight that lands here doesn't just carry passengers, it carries possibility. Analysts estimate the project could generate over 1 million jobs and contribute up to 9% of the country's GDP once it's operational. That's not just economic growth, it's transformation, the kind that ripples across generations. But here's the twist that few outside the region grasp. The Philippines is no longer building in isolation. This project has quietly attracted investment from Japan, South Korea, and Europe. A consortium of global powerhouses now shares one belief: the next Asian gateway isn't in Singapore, Bangkok, or Hong Kong. And this changes everything. For decades, Asia's trade routes revolved around a few predictable hubs, but the world's economic map is redrawing itself, and the Philippines sits right at the new intersection. Closer than Hong Kong for Southeast Asia, cheaper than Singapore, and powered by a young, English-speaking, digitally savvy workforce, it's the perfect convergence of cost, culture, and connectivity. But then came the resistance. Environmental critics warned of coastal risks, bureaucrats questioned feasibility, even foreign observers whispered doubts about whether the Philippines could deliver. But history's biggest revolutions never start easy. They start with disbelief. And disbelief is the first spark of transformation. San Miguel didn't retreat. Instead, they redesigned. Land reclamation was done with climate resilience in mind. Flood systems were re-engineered. Each challenge became a blueprint for endurance. And through this process, something bigger emerged. The project stopped being just an airport and became a statement of Filipino resolve. While nations paused during the pandemic, the Philippines prepared. It planned, refined, recalibrated. When others were locking down, Filipino engineers were sketching future skylines. The world didn't see it happening quietly, but soon the results became visible from space. Now, the airport is the anchor of a growing ecosystem. Factories, expressways, and smart city corridors connecting Luzon from north to south. New highways link it directly to central Luzon, cutting travel time from hours to minutes. Japan-backed railway projects now weave through provinces that once seemed unreachable. The result, a living network of mobility that breathes life into forgotten towns and brings opportunities to millions who once had to leave home to find work. That's the quiet revolution no headline can capture. It's not just infrastructure, it's inclusion. The Philippines isn't just catching up, it's connecting in ways that could rewrite Southeast Asia's trade logic entirely. Fresh produce from Mindanao, electronics from Cavite, textiles from Pampanga, everything now flows faster, smoother, stronger. It's the rise of a true gateway economy, one where the nation finally profits from its geography rather than paying for it. And yet, what's happening here goes beyond economics. It's symbolic. For decades, the Philippines has been treated like a supporting character in Asia's growth story. Now, it's rewriting the script and doing it in its own voice. The cranes of Bulacan don't just lift steel, they lift confidence. Each beam of metal driven into the reclaimed soil is an act of faith in a future the world didn't think possible. Every worker on site isn't just earning a wage, they're carving history with their hands. The irony, the same geography that once made the Philippines a target for colonizers is now becoming its greatest strength. Between the Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea, the nation is positioning itself as the link that connects east to west, north to south. And in a time when countries fight to dominate, the Philippines is quietly choosing to connect. That's a secret few outsiders realize. The most powerful nations in this century won't be the ones who control, but the ones who connect. And the Philippines is building the runways that will carry that future. The world's attention is slowly turning toward Manila Bay. Investors, diplomats, and journalists are arriving, curious to see what's rising from the water. But those who truly understand Asia's pulse already know. It's not just about steel and cement. It's about the shift of power, of pride, and of purpose. Because somewhere in Bulacan, surrounded by scaffolds and cranes, a message is being written in the skyline. The Philippines is done waiting for permission. And what comes next will shake the map of Asia. If you believe the world is finally waking up to the Philippines' potential, type progress in the comments below. Because this isn't just a project, it's the start of a power the world will soon have to reckon with. Momentum. It's one of the most powerful forces in economics. Once it starts, it's nearly impossible to stop. And right now, that's exactly what the Philippines is experiencing. The cranes in Bulacan aren't just building an airport, they're building momentum. Every beam of steel, every shipment of concrete, every job created is setting off a ripple effect that stretches far beyond Manila Bay. Because when infrastructure rises, everything else follows. Confidence, investment, opportunity. Economists call it the chain reaction effect. You start with one major project and suddenly a dozen others begin to form around it. New housing zones, new businesses, schools, hospitals, malls, entire new cities, breathing, moving, thriving. The land surrounding the new Manila International Airport is already multiplying in value. Investors are scrambling to secure space before it's gone. But this story isn't just about economics, it's about validation. For decades, the Philippines was seen as the almost economy, almost ready, almost there, always the promise, never the priority. But this project flips that narrative on its head. Foreign investors who once hesitated are now callings. Japanese banks, Korean construction firms, European developers, they're all part of this new ecosystem, not because of cheap labor, but because they see something they haven't seen before: competence. For the first time in a long time, the world believes the Philippines can execute, deliver, finish. And that belief changes everything. Because belief attracts capital, and capital builds nations. But then the shift deepens. This isn't just about building an airport, it's about building identity. The Philippines is rewriting how the world sees it and how its people see themselves. From the overseas worker returning home to a world-class terminal built by fellow Filipinos to the engineer watching his design take shape across the skyline, this project touches something deeply personal. It's no longer someday, it's today. And you can feel it in every headline, in every construction site, in every proud smile that says we're finally doing it ourselves. Infrastructure can be measured in concrete and steel, but its real value is emotional. It gives people hope, pride, and a sense of belonging. Because when a nation builds something great, its people start to believe they are great too. Still, the ripple doesn't stop at national borders. Around Asia, the conversation is changing. Singapore, Japan, and South Korea are watching closely. The US and China are quietly repositioning. Everyone wants a piece of what's happening in the archipelago they once underestimated. And this time, the Philippines isn't asking for permission, it's setting the terms. The $10 billion zero-cents airport is just the beginning. Around it, corridors are emerging, energy, logistics, and digital infrastructure projects are following its lead. This is how a single vision becomes a movement. Because when one nation proves it can build the impossible, others take notice. Investors who once looked past the Philippines now see a country with backbone, strategy, and staying power. But the real victory isn't in attracting outsiders, it's in inspiring its own. Young Filipinos who once dreamed only of leaving are now dreaming of building, staying, contributing. And that right there is the biggest shift of all. This is no longer about catching up with the world, it's about claiming a seat at the table. A seat earned, not handed. When the new Manila International Airport opens, it won't just connect flights, it'll connect futures. Fresh produce from Mindanao, reaching Tokyo in hours. Electronics from Cavite, shipping straight to Europe. Tourism tripling in value. Local industries expanding faster than ever before. And beneath it all, one unspoken truth will echo. This is what happens when a nation believes in itself again. Because what the Philippines is building isn't just an airport, it's a mirror. One that reflects how far it's come and how much higher it can still rise. The noise of progress in Bulacan is more than construction. It's the heartbeat of a country waking up from decades of doubt. And maybe that's what this story has been about all along. Not the steel, not the concrete, but the courage to finally say, we belong here. We're not behind, we're becoming. As dawn breaks over Manila Bay and the first light hits those rising terminals, it's clear the Philippines isn't just taking off, it's ascending. The cranes may one day come down, but what they've lifted will stand for generations. If you've made it this far, you've witnessed more than just a story, you've seen a nation reclaim its pride. Drop RESSECT in the comments if you believe the Philippines is done waiting and ready to lead. Because this isn't the end, it's the beginning of the country's greatest takeoff yet.